going on, people? Rasate here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining me back on the Night Owl podcast. I appreciate all of you guys. I really enjoy doing this because it gives me a chance to voice out my own opinions, and I get to hear myself say it out loud sometimes because, let's face it, I'm a single mom. I work hard. I don't have that many people to talk to. It's all of you, right? So I get a chance to document my journey, give you a sense of how I feel, what I believe, where my opinions are at the moment. And yes, they are all just opinions. This is not fact. It's how I feel about the world and the perspective that I am coming with. But more than that, I feel like talking it out, sharing all of this gives you a chance to maybe think of things in a different way, maybe consider another point of view that might be helpful to you, that might be encouraging to you, maybe it's hopeful to you. That's what I'm hoping for, right? I'm hoping that you have hope as well. But with all that being said, I came across a post on self-care as a journey, and it's by a gentleman named Nate Postlethwaite. I'm not sure if I destroyed that name or not. I'm so sorry. But this young man is talking about something that I thought was really, really important to shed some light on. So he said, please don't shame someone by calling them a control freak. Many of us grew up in environments where making a mistake cost us greatly. Our fear of being out of control is the fear of being unjustly punished. And you know what? Yes, I am a control freak. I have a little bit of OCD going on with me because I like things to be in their place because that's the way I was taught. And I learned to appreciate things having order and place and time and value because it's the reason I've been able to hold on to so much in my life. I've been able to take care of things so that they last a long time. I don't have to constantly replace anything, and that makes me feel good because it makes me feel like I earned these big things that I've bought for myself, and because I'm able to take care of them, they last me. They serve me just in return, right? But when it comes to being a control freak, yes, there are some times that I feel like I need the stability that control brings me. There was so many times in my life that I have moved from country to country. I didn't feel like any of the decisions were mine to make. They were made for me. I didn't get a chance to get to make friends. There were times where I had to move from one school to another within like 6 months of getting to the first school. And sometimes it was different cultures, different countries, different languages. There was a lot up in the air for me. So there was nothing much that I could really bank on to be able to learn how to find my place in that specific community. So for me, as a human need, stability was something that I really, really needed. So growing up, wherever I could control, I did. Why? Because I needed it. I needed to feel like there was something steady underneath me. I needed to feel like there was level ground somewhere. Not that the other shoe was going to drop, the carpet was going to be pulled out from under me, that, I was going to get some chaotic decision made, right, that I had no say in, and then I'd have to uproot my life and pick up and start over again somewhere else. So whenever I got a chance in my teens and early 20s, I felt the need to put my foot down and be rigid about what I wanted and how I wanted it because I needed to be this way. But eventually I also learned that I can't afford to be like that all the time because then I'm losing people. And now looking back, that would have been a good thing, but at the time, I needed connection. Now that I had the stability in my life, I needed the connection to come into play as well. And so then it was a matter of me trading my stability for the connection, and that's where I started people pleasing a whole lot more. So if you realize the way we grow up teaches us how to be a specific way. It teaches us, those mechanisms, or coping mechanisms that help us survive from day to day. For me, I needed to be a control freak. I needed things to be a certain way, and if they didn't go a certain way, I flipped out about it. Eventually, when I realized that me flipping out about it meant that I was going to lose people, I realized, no, I want the connection more than I want the stability. I want people around me. And then at that point, I realized that, okay, I have the connections, but they're not really good connections. I have people around me, but they're not people who really would, ride or die for me. And so it went back to, okay, well, what can I control? What do I really need? How can I depend on myself more rather than looking outside of myself to get the things that I need to be able to survive day to day? So if you look at it decade by decade, right? As a child, I needed the stability. So I became a control freak. I tried to manipulate and control as much as I could, much to no avail, but I tried. And then eventually I became known as somebody who was not, what is that word I want to use? It's not relenting, but it's like I'm not flexible. I am not capable of getting along with others because I need things to be a certain way. And in a group, you can't have your way because everyone wants their own way, right? So eventually, I went from this person who was not very friendly, didn't get along with anyone, to being this person who would bend over backwards for everybody and was an easy pushover, was easily manipulated because all I wanted was the connection. eventually from there, I evolved again and realized that I need a little bit of everything. It can't be one or the other. So in certain places, I choose my battles and I control. And where I can't control, I learn to make do without, or I learn to manage the relationship in such a way that I have space to get what I need done and you have space to get what you need done as well. So it's more about compromise because I understand what my needs are and which is most important to me. So when you call somebody by a label like a control freak, like someone who is overly shy as being a fraidy cat or any of those things, that they overthink, they question things 100 times, they're anxious about every possible outcome because they have never been in that situation before. They've always had the stability, and so now variety scares the crap out of them. It's wrong to shame them for those things, to label them that way. But I know that every one of us has been through it, right? But understand that when you call that person that thing, the way you call them that label, right, gives them the impression that it's good or bad, obviously. I think I talked about this when I talked about how I didn't really like my name and the way people called me. But you can tell whether it's a good label or a bad label. And when it's a bad label, you tend to feel ashamed about the fact that you are this way and you can't control it. You can't come out of it. This is the way you are. Why should you feel bad for the way that you are? But if you are able to step outside of yourself for a second and see that, okay, they're calling me this thing. This thing is accumulation of the way I've learned to survive in my life. You will learn not to feel bad about it, even though they mean it to feel something badly, like they mean it to shame you or to make you feel guilty. You will learn that, okay, I have nothing to be ashamed of. This is something that I learned that I needed to do at the time, because at the time when I was younger or in a different phase of my life, I didn't have something that I could bank on. I didn't have something that was stable that I could predict every day. It was too chaotic. There was too many variables. There were too many people in and out the house, maybe. There were too many moves. There were too many variables that I could not control. And so I did the best I could by managing what I could control. I needed things in a specific order. I needed things to be done in a specific manner, in a specific timeline. I needed the schedule. I needed the schedule. I needed the schedule. And so when you become rigid like that, it's because at that time you needed it. But if you notice, as we go through life, there will be phases where you learn that you can't be the way you were before because the phase of life that you're in right now doesn't match the phase of life that you were back then. You've outgrown this pattern of behavior and it's time to evolve a little bit and upgrade that system that you use to cope with. So in that regard, I really like the fact that Nate Postlethwaite, I'm so sorry, I really feel like I screwed up his name. The fact that he would even post this, please don't shame someone by calling them a control freak. Many of us grew up in environments where making a mistake cost us greatly. Our fear of being out of control is the fear of being unjustly punished. And I think I touched a little bit of that when he talks about mistakes costing us greatly. It's because we don't know what to expect from the other person. Let's talk about living with someone who is controlling of us, and the best way we know how to manage that person is to not get in trouble with them. So we do the best we can by taking all of their feedback and putting together a logic pattern. How do I make sure I don't get in trouble with this person? Well, this person, they don't like it when I do certain things a certain way. I need to do it his way or her way. And if I learn how to do it her way, then, I can make sure that I stay in favor with them for a little bit longer. So instead of getting in trouble, I can manage and extend that period of peace as long as possible. My mom and dad were two different personality types. My mom was very, very rigid when it came to day-to-day functions. So little things every day had to be done a specific way. I made the mistake once of asking her if I could learn how to iron. And she said, yeah, of course, I'll teach you how to iron and everything. But then it had to be exactly the way she wanted it to be ironed. So if it wasn't done properly and if there was a single wrinkle in it, she would scrunch it all up and make me start all over again, which was terrifying to me because then she would hold a grudge and she would be upset for the rest of the day because that was her way of making sure that she drove home the point that I made a mistake and I needed to feel like I was being punished for it and I needed to earn her love and favor again. But that also meant she was teaching me that she could take her love from me, that it wasn't a constant that I could depend on, it could come and go, which in turn, as I grew older, was a fear of mine. I am afraid of getting anyone upset with me or speaking my mind because they could take their love away. I may lose that connection, which is why, like I said, the connection became very, very important over the fact that I wanted some form of stability. sometimes when I would come home from school, and if my dad was home, first of all, it was because he was out of work or he was on vacation. He was, in between projects or whatever. So that means he was already very sensitive about anything around him, and he needs for us not to need him. That's the way he operates. So he is great. He's fun. He's generous. He's, the party guy or whatever. But if I suddenly do anything that upsets his balance, I will be punished severely. He was very physical when he got upset. He would yell and scream. He would beat. He would throw things. He would break things. And at that point, I would do all I could to just get through that temper tantrum. I had to make myself as small as possible. I needed to get out of the way. I needed to not make any facial expressions. I needed to not make any noises. I could not cry because anything could set him off and it could get bigger than it already was. And in that regard, I needed to make sure that I survived. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it translate into relationships later on in my life where if that person that I was with was belligerent, I would shrink myself down. Why? Because I've tried it before. I know it works again, right? And if it works, I'm going to try it again to see if it works in this situation. Otherwise, I have to adapt. That's basically what it comes down to. So like I said, I like the fact this young man wrote about this. The fact that sometimes our environments were so chaotic that we did whatever it was that we could to be able to avoid pain, right? To prolong that sense of peace, even if it was fake, right? Even if it was something where I just avoid that person while they're on vacation or while they're in the house with us, whatever, so that I don't get in trouble. I don't give them any, ammunition to get upset with me so that I could get through the next day. So I could get to the next place where I knew that I would be safe. It's like that for a lot of us. And if you understand your own darkness and you understand why you behave the way that you do, it gives you the chance to be, like I said, compassionate and willing to understand where the other person is coming from. And it also gives you a chance to understand that people only operate from their level of understanding. If they don't understand that what they're doing is painful to you or harmful to you, even after you tell them that it is, then you understand that, okay, poor thing, they don't get it. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make myself feel safe instead of getting upset with them, taking it personally that they don't, care for you, that they're not focused on your happiness like you would be focused on theirs, and you don't take it on as something you need to correct in them. You let them walk their path, their journey, the way that it is, and you focus on how you can manage your own difficulties. So such a poignant post. So much to talk about there. I think I rambled a little bit, but if you have any questions or concerns, please drop them in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. But in the meantime, watch the way you speak to people, watch the way you call them, you label them, you describe them, because all of that matters. All of those words have big meaning, and it matters how you speak to those people, how you speak about those people. It says a lot about you as well. All right, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.